There are a lot of differences between me and my opponents, both in the Democratic primary and in the Republican primary. And I can tell you this, I will not let someone like Donald Trump or Ted Cruz say what he is saying about the people, the hardworking people, including immigrants, but everyone who works hard in New York. And contrary to Senator Cruz, I think New York values are America's values, and we want to stand up for those here in New York and across the country.
That was Hillary Clinton earlier Monday going after Republican rivals Ted Cruz and Donald Trump while campaigning in Yonkers, New York. And as the rhetoric continues to heat up, according to the latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll, Clinton is heading into Tuesday's primary with a solid 10-point lead over Bernie Sanders. Here to break down both candidates' appeals, Heidi Przyblya is USA Today senior political reporter. Heidi, good to have you with me.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, so let's talk about Hillary Clinton. You know, she seemed to have turned her attention to Republicans now in a way that is seeming to sort of almost skip over this primary business. But is this a point in which there's actually been that shift, or is she still trying to kind of do both?
I think she's done this two-step all throughout, Elaine, because if you looked after her big sweep in the South, we saw the same type of pivot after Ohio, and now again, and I think it will really depend on what the margin is tomorrow, because she was hoping, despite what the Clinton campaign is telling all of us now, for at least a double-digit victory coming out of New York, and now I think that's a little bit in doubt. So.
Yeah, because that's going to be my next question here. Is a win just a win for her, or what is the margin you think that can be considered really overwhelmingly a true victory? Because he's had some momentum on his side, at least when it comes to, you know, getting the W's in his column.
Well, look at all of the advantages that she has in New York, chief among them being that this is a closed primary. And if you look at her margins in states where Sanders won, she had huge margins with registered Democrats. Furthermore, the independents who've been booing him cannot vote here. She represented the state for 8 years, big minority population, you know, more affluent voters. So if she doesn't at least get some kind of a double-digit victory here, and I mean at 10% or more, I think it'll be a bit of a symbolic victory for Sanders. It'll be a little bit, you know, demoralizing to the Clinton people, but you got to keep going back to the math on all of these races and look at the fact that regardless of what that margin is going forward, she still only has to get 2/5 of the delegates. He's got to get 3/5.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty clear. A recent CBS News poll found that in potential November matchups, John Kasich is the only Republican who beats Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, Sanders wins against all three, beating Trump and Cruz by double digits. What do you think that's about?
That is Sanders' main argument that he has at this point. He goes into and starts off all of his speeches with, if you ask the Clinton people, what it's about is the fact that Republicans from the start have been feeding, you know, this Oppo machine and millions of dollars in negative advertising against her. I mean, they were even running some pro-Bernie ads, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in some of these states. So he's had all of that on his side. Who knows what would happen in a general, because surely they are sitting on Oppo about Bernie as well, and that would come out. But you got to give him credit as well that he does appear to have some crossover appeal. You know, he's getting a lot of independent voters and more liberal voters as well.
We know that Bernie Sanders has made it clear he is not planning to get out anytime soon. But is his continued presence on the campaign trail hurting the party at all, the Democratic Party?
You know, Elaine, this is the question of the moment right now. So I went back and actually looked at where we were in 2008 and with the, you know, increasing attacks between Hillary and Obama. And it's the same percentage of people today who said they wouldn't vote for, you know, Hillary or under any circumstances who said they wouldn't vote for Obama back then. They work it out. It comes out in the wash. It depends on what how hard Bernie goes into and campaigns for her once this becomes clear that the nomination is hers.
Yeah. You mentioned before the idea that independents won't be able to vote in New York. How is that going to impact each candidate in terms of their chances here? Because, you know, certainly, as you've been saying, as others have been saying, Bernie Sanders needs the turnout and wants that turnout in order to have a successful run here in New York.
Well, I think it's going to be big for him because this is not about opportunities after New York for Bernie Sanders. You know, he came out of Ohio, and we knew there was this cache of states that favored him, that were caucus states, you know, and also, you know, with independent voters where they could participate potentially. He doesn't have that now. You go out of New York, and where are the rest of the competitions? Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Maryland, all states where she has arguably an even bigger advantage in some of those states than she does even in New York. So I think, you know, it's going to be hard from a math perspective in New York and a momentum perspective then rolling into these other states.
Do you think that New York will be indicative of what else might be happening in the region?
At least
later?
in the northeastern seaboard states. Yeah, and Connecticut is very similar, you know, to New York, obviously. I don't need to tell everybody here that.
In the tri-state area,
Yes.
we are well familiar.
Yeah.
All right, and there is the delegate math there. All right, Heidi Przyblya, thanks so much. Great to talk to you in person.
You too. Nice to see you.